Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for joining us for the last day of the 2023 NCAA Inclusion Forum. We still have lots of powerful content to share with you all today. My name is Solomon Siskin, and I'm a postgraduate intern with the NCAA's Office of Inclusion. Our next session is titled, It Takes a Global Village, Sound Practices Toward International Student Athletes Inclusion. And we're excited to expand on this important topic with a panel of incredible people. All four of them are former international student athletes who are now serving as athletics administrators. Growing steadily and consistently, international student athletes studying and competing at NCAA member institutions has long surpassed the 20,000 mark and became an inseparable part of the NCAA landscape. As they integrate into the fabric of the U.S. collegiate athletics landscape, these student athletes, along with many coaches and athletics administrators who are hailing from all four corners of the globe, are yet another powerful embodiment of what diversity truly is. The cultural wealth and unique perspectives they bring with them from afar are enriching in every sense of the word, but crossing oceans and relocating to a different culture is not free of adversity. In fact, this population faces a wide array of unique challenges, which in turn yields unique needs. And that is why we should all remain cognizant that when we talk about DEI initiatives, it's important that we don't overlook our international student athletes. In 2021, the NCAA Office of Inclusion conducted its first ever think tank on international student athlete inclusion. There, we were able to list and better understand the mentioned adversity, as well as to brainstorm on ways to mitigate it. That event has yielded a two-part guide on this topic, and you can find it on our resources table downstairs near registration. Please grab a copy, we have plenty. So there's no better way to learn about it than from these individuals right here, from those who have been through it themselves and now dedicated to improving the international student athlete experience for those who come after them. It is my pleasure to introduce Rodrigo Feller, Ancia Eiffel, Dr. Ash, and Raquel Montalvo Perez. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you, Solomon. My name is Rodrigo Feller. My pronouns are he and him. I'm originally from São Paulo, Brazil. I'm a second-year PhD student in sport entertainment management at the University of South Carolina. And I came to the US in 2015 to be a swimmer at Indiana University of Pennsylvania, which is a Division II school at the PSAC conference.
Great. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Ash. My pronouns are she and her, and I am an Indian. I played tennis in college and moved on to student support services, and I've been a part of that for the last 15 years. So welcome.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ancia Eiffel. I'm a former international student athlete from Barbados. I currently serve as the Associate Director for Academic Services at the University of Louisville.
And good morning, everybody. My name is Raquel Montalvo Perez, and my pronouns are she, hers. And today I serve as a career counselor for student athletes, but I was a former international student myself. I played tennis at Eastern Kentucky University since 2015 to 18, and it's a pleasure to be here today with you.
Awesome. So for the first question, what are the entities involved with an international student athlete prospect?
Of course. So whenever we thought about doing this presentation, we thought it was very important for us to divide it in three, right? What is the pre-arrival process, the middle, what is the experience, and the postgraduate. So it is very important for us to understand what entails in the pre-arrival because that's where the experience starts. So for this one, the key one is the recruiting agencies as well as the high school coaches and the parents. Of course, during this process, you have the NCAA, which is the eligibility center and so forth. And on top of that, not a lot of schools are requiring the SAT right now, but they do require the TOEFL for international students. So it's always a big understanding point for academic advisors and for all the staff and coaches to understand that they have those stressors beforehand to meet those requirements in order to come or in order to be eligible for the future 4 years that they have.
Awesome. What are the campus partners constituents involved in the pre-arrival process?
So as we start, dealing into more what are some of the entities, we have a couple of them described over here, but the very first one, it's always the international office. If your institution has a regulated office, Most of you have to have at least one person designated. This is the person that is going to be the key point of contact in the first one, actually, to deal with those documentations such as I-20, such as SEVIS, such as pre-arrival keys, for them to deal first with the visa standpoint. Second it's always the compliance office, the NCAA regulator, so they have to be in constant communication with the compliance office from your institution, as well as the administration and admissions, right? How can our admission process in our institution be culturally competitive to understand all our international student athletes, maybe those who don't speak the language first, but to those maybe who have parents that have been through the process already. Some of the things that I've been seeing recently is that we are going to enter a wave of parents maybe that have gone through the process, and they might be seeking for more guidance for their kids, right? Some international student athletes, former, that become parents might come with their kids to the US and be like, how are they not changing things? Like, I dealt with this 20 years ago. What are we doing differently? So last but not least, coaches, administrators, and staff, it is still very important during the pre-arrival process that they have a clear understanding, right, of how the university works in terms of supporting, but also how are we receiving this prospect.
I'm going to add quickly to that. A lot of times athletic departments get a bad rep because we are expecting, or people on campus believe that we are expecting them to come to us. One of the biggest things that I've noticed in my role is going to them. Sometimes there's a street between campus and athletic facilities, so make that move to go on campus and build those relationships with people on campus that can eventually help you with this process. I have a mentor that always says that when you have an issue, that should not be the first time you go meet people on campus. You should already have that relationship so that when there is an issue, you already know who you need to go to and they already know you by face and name. So.
Those were some very good points. How can we provide a clear picture of the pre-arrival process to student athletes, coaches, and supporting staff?
Yeah, so standardized things, right? These two amazing human beings right here sitting next to my left have created for the first time ever since 2021 that we started this process, a guide and some of the wording that you all can use so you can be competent whenever you deal with the situations. Give this guide to the coaches, give this guide to the administrators, to your supervisors, to the people that you supervise. As long as the prospective student athlete is hearing a standardized language amongst all, that is going to that is going to create that clear understanding of, okay, they might have to move on campus, they might have to move in the athletics world, and they might have to move into the coaches or the social life, but they are all going to understand that everybody knows what they are supposed to tell them. And they are going to understand that everybody has the same language in their heads, in their vocabulary. So that can be one of the ways and one of the big ways that student athletes can feel that they have a better understanding of what the collegiate landscape entails.
I will add, one of the things that I think some of us have done at our former institutions or current institutions is create a handbook for our student athletes that literally has everything from pre-arrival to everyday life here, so that when you just hand them that, and that doesn't mean your role ends right there, but at least it's a good start for them to have something handy to go back to. So definitely try that. If you have any questions about that, reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to give you that resource.
Thank you for your insight. What are some of the crucial programming for ISAs to enhance community building and retention?
One of the things the student athletes, international student athlete values is community. When you come here, you're coming over, you're just playing your sport, you're enjoying it, you're 16, 17, you're young. Then you come to a foreign country, you don't know anyone here, probably don't have any family or close friends here. So building that community relations, one thing I started at the University of Louisville is reaching out to our communities who are international, because most cities have people who are from different continents and different countries there. So if you make that effort to reach out to your community, say, hey, I do have an African student is on a track team, could your African community, come to the track meet? Can you come to the soccer games? We do have our African Student Association. We partner with them a lot to help bring them to our games so the kids can feel comfortable. Some kids don't have their parents coming for senior days, so we give them flags. And if you're senior administrators, if you can go to their senior games, that may make them feel a lot more comfortable, and then they'll also help with your recruitment as well too. So building those community relations in the community can help, giving them a sense of belonging, a sense of comfortability within themselves, and then, hey, you know what, maybe you can get through this new journey on your own, but you still have, you have that resource there for you if you need to reach out to those people in the community.
I want to touch on, I know we have a lot of resources listed there, but the ones I definitely want to touch on is mental health. I know that's a hot topic in college athletics, so sometimes we forget that looks very different for international student athletes, especially when you have student athletes that come from countries where mental health is not looked at positively, right? If you seek help, that means you're not a strong man or a strong woman. And how to break those barriers and have those conversations with them so that when they need that help, they know it's okay to get that help. And homesickness looks different for different people. And so just knowing those small signs that you can see in your student athletes when you see them, that, hey, I think this person is homesick, I think we need to figure something out, and reaching out to the coaches really definitely helps. The other thing I would say is, like NCA talked about this farewell. We forget that our international student athletes don't have people coming for their games on a weekly basis. Mom, dad, aunt, grandma, grandpa, all of those things. Doesn't happen, right? I played for 4 years. I didn't have a single family member come for my games all 4 years. So, but I had an incredible community that showed up for my senior day, and that makes a difference, So to do that, and then also the big thing is athlete identity. A lot of them, when they start playing that sport very early on in their country, a lot earlier than what Americans probably do, so their identity is that of an athlete a lot of times. So how do you help them with that? Because a lot of times they want to go pro, but they may not be able to, and how do you have those conversations with them to create that plan B if plan A does not work is really important.
I'll tap on nutrition. As an academic advisor, you need fuel for your brain to function and get your work done. You also need the fueling for you to perform at your sport at your highest level. So coming to a new country, I'll give my experience. I went to IMG Academies before I went to college. So luckily for me, my dietary plans had a transition of a year before I went into my university. Some students come here and they don't have a transition plan within dietary plans. So it takes your body at least like 30 to 40 days to adjust to the new foods here. I'm sorry, but you guys eat a lot of processed foods, not really cooked food. So an international student who comes here and the coach takes them to Chick-fil-A, that's not gonna be something their bodies are used to. So which means those first 30 days, they're adjusting to being homesick, nutrition, having to adjust to a new coaching staff, a new material. So for them, those first 30 days are crucial on campus. So what I started doing at our university is speaking to our chef and then having, when our kids come over, having the food tasting. So having them taste different foods so their palates can get accustomed to the food groups. And that helps build them a little more comfortable, and then their body starts to adjust within the food group. So just little things like that help. And then also if your nutrition with your academics and the grades start to slip, if your grades are starting to slip, then that means you're not going to have, your performance is going to be low. So if you have nutrition people on your campus, I highly recommend you speaking to them when you have international students coming on campus. I guess asking them, hey, what are some things you like? What don't you like? What foods you like? What you don't prefer? And then have them do some sort of food tasting to help them get adjusted to the new system.
One more thing I would add is to cultural mindfulness is just if you are getting a student from a different country, try to look up something about their country. Try to figure out something. Google is free, y'all. Go on Google. Try to figure it out. Also, small things. My coach called me for my recruiting call at 2:00 in the morning because of the time difference, and I was like, I was sleeping, and so you just need to figure those things out. What is the time there? What is a good time to call this person? It's those small things that make a difference, that you really want these people, but you are ready to have them here as well,
One of the big last ones that I would touch on right now is who has done their taxes this year? Raise your hand. All right, for those who didn't raise your hand, why you didn't do that? Maybe because you were an international student. I got news for you. You were required to do so. Did you know that international students, whether they earn income or not, they need to file taxes? So all these things that we talked about, yes, they differ student to student, but there is one thing that always there is a playing field for everybody. They all need to pay taxes. They all need to fill out 1 to 2 forms, right? You can talk to me for what those forms are, but they all need to either get their social security number because it was not assigned at birth, or they need to get their ITIN number, which is, you know, another process in itself. So if you don't find a play field, right, that everybody is like, I don't know how to tailor this to one, I don't know how to tailor this one to this one, find a challenge that everybody is facing. And I assure you, 98% of those is gonna be tax filing season. So if you wanna break into the student athlete mind and say like, hey, I can help you with that because I understand the regulations, because I understand the vocabulary of taxes, which you might not know. So come to me, come to my office, or, you know, designate somebody that can, you know, help these people at some point on that. And that's when you're gonna break into, okay, so how is your family doing? How is, you know, your community doing? Start asking those questions once you have them there. But they have to feel that you are there to help them in something that they don't even know it exists.
At my institution, we actually have accountants that come and help our international student athletes. That's like a part of our student athlete development. We actually ask our former student athletes who are now accountants and stuff to come and help us with that, so that they also feel like they are preparing the next generation of student athletes and doing their part for their program, but also we get that that expertise, because I promise you I'm not an expert in taxes. I can barely do my own, you know.
And just to add to everything they said, I think it's really important to point out that small changes can make big differences. And a lot of times, those changes doesn't require a lot of money. So it's going to increase tremendously the cost of athletic departments of universities. I think those small changes can be really cheap. Sometimes all it takes is some attitude to welcome them and make them feel more welcome. So, okay. How can we internationalize international student athletes degree plan?
Yeah, this is a very big topic. I'll just briefly touch into that pre-arrival process. Most of them, they know what they want to major in because they are coming into United States. But one of the big things that you can ask, and Dr. Ash is going to touch on for those academic advisors that we have over here, how can their degree plan be matched with something that they are trying to do at home if they wanted to? Or, how this degree plan can enhance them maybe to have more years during the immigration process after they graduate over here. So she can extend it to that.
The big thing, honestly, I would say is choosing a major that's going to honestly get you a job in the United States if you want to stay here. Let's just be honest. And then also, if you don't want to stay here, how can you use that back home? Because a lot of the American degrees don't translate over at home. So you want to help them make that decision. But also at the same time, I have had student athletes that came in saying, I'm gonna go back home, and in 2 years they're like, no, I actually want to stay in the United States. So now we gotta alter our plan accordingly, and having those critical conversations with them is very important. But the 2 things I will add is, number 1, sometimes they will come here with a plan to be in a certain major because of parental influence. Because if you're from certain countries, unless you're a doctor, engineer, you're nothing. Right? I was one of them, and I told my parents, I come from a family of doctors. I'm like, y'all can go save lives. That's not my ministry, But I have a doctorate now, but I only change lives. I don't save lives, right? But you have to just make them understand that it's okay to not be an engineer. It's okay to not be a doctor if you don't like science. You know, if you can't pass biology or chemistry, maybe this is not the path for you, you know? So having those critical conversations. But also the big thing I will say is at TCU, I kind of made this rule that my coaches were not allowed to influence major changes or major selection for my student athletes. Because I had a lot of student athletes that came and said, coach said I have to major in this because I cannot miss practice. You cannot do that. Okay, because a lot of times coaches don't realize that after 4 years, these students, if they want to stay in the country, they need to have a good major. When I say good major, you cannot be general studies, you cannot be social sciences or something very, you know, broad that's not going to get you an advantage to stay in the country. So the rule here at TCU was that you cannot have that conversation with the student athletes. Only academic advisors and administrators could. So a good way to start is speaking to your coaches first.
Awesome. And one thing I've realized through my experience and my research is that a lot of times the coaches and supporting staff do care a lot about the upcoming and transition into college, but sometimes they forget that you have a life after college, and a lot of times a lot of international students want to stay in the country, and they find some, you know, hardships trying to stay here. So how can we assist international student athletes transition into a successful postgraduate career?
Your career development offices, student athlete development. That's the basis of what you do. So the same practices and policies and procedures you put for your domestic students, we need to start implementing those for our international students. Well, there is starting them with a CPT opportunity, internship on campus. It can work 20 hours a week, getting them in the employment process of how employment works in the United States, how you have to work, and you have to get a social security number. So giving them that process and having them connect with your career development people on your campus and in your athletic departments, and then building off of that and letting them know, hey, this is a path that you can go. Here are the people you can reach out to. Here's the steps that you can take if you want to stay in the U.S. And then also having them connect with them with your international people from different countries as well too. Some of them might not want to stay in the U.S. They might want to work in a different country, but the basis here is the career pathway for career development and career success.
I think the one thing I will add is creating career opportunities specific to international student athletes. So we have a career development plan or a career night for just international student athletes, and that's when we invite companies or whatnot who are going to hire internationals. Because one of the things we realize is our international student athletes would go through career night just like any other student athlete, and then that company would say, oh, we don't sponsor H-1Bs, or we don't do OPTs or CPTs. And then, so that's very disheartening for your international student athletes, knowing that they're really good students, they're really good athletes, but no one wants to hire them just because they have this policy, right? So we started bringing in people that will actually hire them so that they have that advantage of going in and saying, I have a fair chance to get a job here. So that's really important as well.
I know we just tapped on a few like terms, but we're going to explain those acronyms that we just called in a few minutes.
And the last thing I would say about this question, right? What does it mean successful for them? You can ask them. How do you define successful postgraduate career? Is that playing? Most of the international student athletes, if we don't forget about that, they come because they are really good in their countries. Right. What does that mean? That they get to represent their countries and they have dreams of playing professional sports. So allow them to have those dreams as well, but bring them to earth a little bit and say, how can we prepare for these different avenues? You want to stay at home? Let's do it. Let's find a degree that is matchable for your home. Do you want to play professional? Let's do it. You know, try to hit all these targets in your school so you graduate, so you're eligible, so you can keep practicing. Or do you want to stay over here? All right, let's get your social security number. Let's try to find that employer. Let's try to find that mentor, that connections and stuff. So it's having that initial conversation. Hey, what is successful for you? Then you bring into your bubble and say, okay, this is what success means over here. How can we meet in the middle point? That's a very, very good point that I would add.
Yeah, and just to add to everything they said, a lot of times international athletes are not the first in their teams or in the universities. So perhaps connecting that with an alumni that have been through that hardship might be able to help them because they already passed through, they already know some of the terminology, some of the hardships that they are likely to encounter. So that could also help them achieve a successful post-career graduation as well.
So when we talk about career, there are two important terminology right here, and most of you might know it, maybe heard it, CPT and OPT, right? Talk to your international office so you get some of the facts about those. They differ a little bit, but mainly optional practice training, the OPT occurs post-graduation. One of the things that international students, athletes, they often don't know is that you get an OPT after each degree you finish. So, and moreover, if you do on a STEM field, you can extend that 1 year after OPT to 3 years. So that is why we need to tell them there has to be very specific. If you can do it in the STEM field, please do it because it's gonna, pay at the very end. The second one is CPT, which that's curriculum practice training. Curriculum occurs within your education years, and you can take them during the summer, you can take them during the physical year, the school year, as long as your hours require, don't exceed the 20, don't exceed the 8 per day, such and such. So I can talk to the CPT and OPT later on a little bit more if anybody has questions.
The one thing I'll add is tell your student athletes give themselves time, because OPT and CPT take at least 6 months. So don't come to me your senior year in April and say, I'm graduating in May and I need my CPT and OPT because I don't have pixie dust in my pocket, right? At this point, we are too late. So we start having that conversation in the junior year and say, hey, you're about to graduate next year. What is your plan, right? When do we need to file for OPT? When do you need to file for CPT? Because it doesn't go through our office. The International Students Office does that. So you want to make sure that they are communicating with them and doing that. And then also, I want to touch base on real quick. The immigration process is really hard and tedious. So give your student athletes that space to have those hard talks. Like, you're not going to get answers right away. And that sometimes it's daunting. When you're playing your sport, you're being a student as well, and then you have these other things that are going on that your other American teammates are not. It's pretty tedious on them. So make sure you give them that space to speak up about that as well. And then I want to talk about the P1 visa real quick. That is typically for students that are going to go and maybe be a professional athlete is what I want to say. Professional athlete. Know that it's a very high level visa. Not everyone can get that. I had a student that totally thought he was so confident he was going to get that P1 visa, and I was like, let's make a plan B, let's make a plan B. And he wouldn't, and his P1 visa got denied. Now you don't have anything to fall back on, right? Because your other choice, if you don't get a visa to stay in this country, your other choice is going home, right? So you have to make sure that you always have that plan B, that literally your life is in someone else's hand that has never met you, who is going to accept or deny your visa. So you want to make sure you always have that plan B as well. So please make sure your student athletes do that and do it in time as well.
Then the H-1B is the extension after your OPT. Again, the one thing I tell my student athletes, nothing is guaranteed. This is an opportunity. Many are fortunate to make it through. Some haven't. But just be cognizant of what you're trying to accomplish. Like, what are your goals career-wise? Because the H-1B is a career visa. It's not where you just do what you want to do. You have to have a career plan and a path of what you were trying to accomplish within your career.
One of the things I will add is if you are in student support services, you do not want to take this upon yourself. Please reach out to your International Student Services office or your compliance office, or one of the things we do with our student athletes is we have immigration lawyers that come and speak to them every year, right? So that they hear from them. It's a very tedious process. You do not want to be a part of it unless you're qualified to do so. So make sure you involve people that are the experts in this part as well.
Yeah, and it's important to know that the timeline might change. So for example, for me personally, I applied in February for my OPT, and I was planning on starting my job in May. I had to wait until the end of July to do it. Meanwhile, I have friends that only took a month and a half, so it can definitely vary from year to year, from person to person, so that's not, a set timeline. Okay.
And then I'll tap on the alumni. Your alumni are your biggest recruiters. And most of your international people have returned back home. And then if they have a great experience at your university, they will definitely go back to their home countries and say, hey, I had a great time at this school. You might want to come here. You might want to go here. We spend so much time sending care packages to our top football players and to our top basketball players. We make sure they're well taken care of. Most of your international kids are tennis players, swimmers, golfers, track. Those same care packages you send to your football players, send them to your international kids. I promise you, they will love that, and they will advertise your university. They will make sure that you have alumni engaged, and they will want to come back to the university. I've heard from, since I've been at the University of Louisville, I've heard from former international student athletes who said they have never reached out to me. And some of these are your biggest people who can actually engage with your students, and that's your diversity track as well too. Because if you're looking for career development, those people who are in those high positions can also be a piece and connection piece for your students to actually have a potential for jobs and looking at future opportunities.
One of the things I would add on this one, right? How can we differentiate experience? Okay, experience is this, I got here, I left, whether I stayed in the US or I left, that was my experience, period. I can speak to it, but I cannot engage. Okay, so how can we achieve that engagement is through all this process, right? But then who's the administrator on this? They might want to listen to this. Engagement means that once you reach out to them post-graduation, they are gonna be willing and able to come to you, whether that's donation, whenever you ask for money, hey, can we provide more resources? Can you provide more resources for our international students that are now currently doing all the process that you've done? And it's been successful with you, so why not, kind of paying back a little bit? Or whether it's just coming and speaking to them. So if you engage them, it's gonna pay off a lot better than if they just experience. So that's one of the things that I really wanted to say.
Adding to engagement is also celebration. I think we rarely celebrate our international student athletes. So at TCU, what we started was a international student athlete night. And so we invited all our international student athletes. We did a tailgate at a baseball game, which is predominantly a very American sport, right? So we invited them, we had a tailgate for them, and then we actually gave them flags of their countries, and we basically had them on the field and celebrated them. And our international students ate it up. Like, they were just like, this is the first time someone has celebrated me here, for who I am and where I come from. So if you have any questions about that, I'll be around, we can talk about it. But it was one of the best student athlete development events that we've had at our institution. So please come and speak to me about that.
And then even like food, we do it around the world at Louisville. I just have the chef cook one night. It doesn't take that much. You can just have them decide what foods they want to try, what they want to have. Then just having them go to a basketball game, like Dr. Ash said, just, hey, an international night at a basketball game. So your communities who wouldn't be able to see them are able to see them visibly. One of the things they like to do is just be around, have them connect with other people on campus. I know some universities have their international group on campus. Some athletic departments don't have a group. So how about you just reach out to that people on campus and say, hey, we have our international students. They might want to partner with you on campus. What can you do to bring them more inclusion and stuff like that?
Yes, and just to add to that, I think it's really important also to keep a track on those alumni. For example, in my experience, I was afraid. I didn't know what I was to expect when I arrived to the United States, and they connected me with a former Brazilian that had just graduated from the team, and he was able to walk me through everything that I was going to encounter before coming here, and that helped me and my family in our decision as well. Okay, so what is the importance of hiring international staff in athletic departments?
Well, the first one is obviously representation matters. I'm going to more tap into my personal experience as being a former international student athlete. Example, in 2012, Breonna Taylor was shot in Sanford, and I was in Daytona Beach. That was the first time I've ever experienced any sort of racial stuff in the U.S. Then I was fortunate to be hired at the University of Louisville, and then in 2020, everyone knows what happened in Louisville. Some of our former students and current students came to me and they said, hey, this is an experience something I've never experienced before. How did you handle this? And it took me back to my time when I was in Daytona Beach, and that was traumatizing for me because it was something different. You look like me. My parents never gave me the talk about being black in the U.S., so having to experience that. So when my students came to me, I felt a sense of, hey, I can actually be of service to them in a setting that they won't have anyone else to talk to. because it's different when you come to a foreign country. Yes, I may look like you, I don't speak like you, but me, I've never had to talk with my parents. They never had to tell me how to be black in the U.S. That's something I never experienced until I went to Bethune-Cookman and I went to HBCU. And then working at University of Louisville, it was a little different. The students were scared in that time period, but having that representation matters. I know for sure my boss was fortunate I was there because no one in that department would have been able to relate to them in that setting. So again, representation matters. Just having someone in your staff. I know coaches and administrators spend a lot of money recruiting football coaches, and you go across the country and you recruit everyone and you bring the top people to your universities. You can spend the money that is required to hire international staff. You can take that risk to have that representation matters, to have that different voice in your department. Yes, we do speak differently, we look differently, but we do bring that next level of thinking to your department, which can give your students a sense of belonging because we've been in their shoes. We understand what it's like to be an international student athlete, and now we understand what it's like to be an administrator.
I will say my claim to fame at TCU was that when the pandemic hit, so I went to TCU in 2019, November 2019. 2020, pandemic hits, right? The Trump administration was changing immigration laws every single day and policies every single day. My claim to fame at that time was I was the only one who could translate that into what a regular American could understand. So I went from no one knew me, or I was like the newbie, to the person who's sitting in coaches and administrators meetings and telling them exactly what they're saying and what needs to be done. Which student athletes can go home, which student athletes will not be able to come back, right? So we understand the language of immigration. So having us in that room sometimes makes a difference because we can tell you what to do and what not to do as well. So that was honestly an interesting experience for me, but also a really good resource for administrators and our coaches before they made any decisions of letting someone go home or giving them a safe space in the United States as well.
Then also your DEI efforts. We are here for inclusion. And everyone talks about, diversity. It's not just black and white. It's not just male or female. Look at the room. Look around the room. Everyone next to you is from different backgrounds, different cities, different places. The same thing for us. We just speak differently. We're also human beings as well. So just with the xenophobia comics, the stuff of it, you're not from here. It kind of gets to us sometimes because this life that we're living is extremely hard. So a lot of folks in the room knows what it's like, but some people don't fully understand what it's like to sit and be in this space. But we just try to do our best to make sure that the current student athletes who are coming after us have a better experience than, or can have a better experience for themselves. So DEI efforts, take that chance to hire your international person. Take that chance to hire that former international swimmer, that former track athlete. They might bring that diversity, that different thinking, that different perspective that you would need for your department to grow and thrive and success.
Yes, so the topic of this forum is the power of proximity, right? And we need to understand that, a lot of times we can research and we can read a lot, but we're never gonna fully understand unless you're in somebody's skin. For example, I've realized that I can read, I can study as much as I want about African American and African American history in the United States, but I'll never fully comprehend because I'm not in that skin and I don't feel that, in my own experience. So I think hiring international student staff, through the athletic departments can definitely help bring that, to the next level and that supports the next level as well. How can leadership support international staff within the athletic departments?
So I'll start. I know she spoke about the H-1B and the green card process and how sometimes it gets expensive, sometimes it gets tedious, but through that process, we are the ones who need that moral support while we are going through that process, right? I had a former employer that would come to me and vent about how tedious it was for him to provide all the documentation, and I literally pulled up my file or my inbox, and I said, these are literally the documents that I have to provide on my end to make this process happen. And I was like, thanks for venting, but I think this is my chance to do so, like the number of documents, you literally need everything from your birth certificate to every school you've been at, every address you've lived at, every H1 or every F1 visa you've had, everything. Like literally my life is in that inbox, right? So understand that the process is tedious, and you want to give a safe space to your international staff to sometimes vent and say, this is taking a long time, my life is in someone else's hand that has never met me, doesn't know me, you know? So you want to give that opportunity to do so as well. You want to talk about, I can go into dietary restrictions. I know we all talk about that. One, American food is not that great. I'll just be honest. You know, we enjoy a different palate sometimes. So while I say that, give us a chance to be ourselves, right? But at the same time, sometimes when it's holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, we don't have anywhere to go. Like, I have a lot of family in the United States, so I'll go visit them, but a lot of your student athletes or your staff may not have that, right? So invite them for Thanksgiving, you know, invite them for Christmas dinner, and I promise you they'll have the best time of their life. You don't need to even give them a gift. You just have to invite them for dinner, right? But I'll be honest, like, most of my Thanksgiving and Easters, because I couldn't travel because I was working, has either been at my coaches' houses or my colleagues' houses, right? And I've enjoyed that, having a different culture and being around different families, and having, you know, a chance to enjoy that food, but also that company and that companionship is really, really important.
And then, sorry, I'm reading the book. But the next thing is just the microaggressions. I touched on it a little bit earlier. The comments, yeah, when it's xenophobia or whatever, just sometimes it's a lot tougher to hear people telling you certain things. It's like, because you don't understand what we're in, but you have you just speak on certain things you don't know. So like microaggressions, those are things like telling us to get married, to stay here. Some of us, like Dr. Ash, she has our PhD. Some of us are working on our PhD. So like, kind of it's like oh, well, if you want to stay here, just take that route. But some of us don't want to take that route because in some of our countries, marriage is sacred. So why would we want to take that risk? But just the microaggressions, those are some other things that the students experience. I know for sure, like, she was a former tennis player on my team. She was from Japan, and I think we were at a HBCU, and someone mentioned a monkey, and then I didn't even know that in Japanese culture, saying the word monkey is offensive to them as well, too. So just learning about people's cultures, learning what's offensive to them, what you can and can't say, just having those uncomfortable conversations, those dialogues, because that can save you in a conversation. You never know who the person you're speaking to, what they could be doing, but just those microaggressions of little things of just saying, hey, you're not from here, or go back to your home country, like, we're past that. It's 2023. Like, embrace the person next to you. We all have different cultures. We all can learn from everyone else. So just be mindful of the microaggressions when communicating to your students, your staff, and then just anyone you meet in general.
I will add to that. You have an incredible opportunity to be an ally. You know, and when I say that, if you hear someone speak about their accent, the way they speak, or the words they use. So I grew up in India, and I speak British English, and I can't tell you how many times I'll use a word and people are like, wait, what? You know? So be an ally. If you hear someone say that, just cut it off. Like, say, hey, we don't speak like that here, or we don't speak about someone in their accent. You know, it's small things like that that make a difference when your students will feel like they are a part of this community when you are ready to stand up for them. So yes, we do feel those microaggressions. We do see them. Sometimes we say something about it. Sometimes we don't. But you have an incredible opportunity to do so, and I would ask you to do that.
Yes, and just to conclude here and open up for questions, I think it's important to note that when you talk about culturally competent, especially for international students, there's always room for improvement. So there's not such a thing, I'm fully culturally competent, because there's just way too many cultures, way too many people. Everybody's different from each other, so there's always room to learn and grow. So as long as we keep building on everything that we're acquiring, I think it's just gonna move everybody to a better place in the end.
And I would say ask questions. You know, I think I appreciate when someone asks me questions about my culture. I may or may not be able to give you answers, but you know, I will appreciate you asking rather than telling me what my culture is. You know, based on what you saw on TV, because that truly is not a representation all the time. You know, so yeah, you want to open up for questions?
I think the work that you do is incredibly noble, and it's informed by personal experience as well. So I guess my question is, as former international student athletes and now administrators in supporting roles, what
question.
Good question.
I can go ahead and
Okay.
start with that. So my freshman year, I just came here. My English was really, really bad, and a lot of times I'll write papers. I'll take a long time to write even one page, right? And of course, a lot of grammar mistakes with that. So I had a lot of my teammates that would take a few, days or minutes to go and read over my things before I submit to the professors. And I also think the professors really welcome me. I mean, I went to a very small school in Pennsylvania, so the class was about 20 to 30 people. So I was able to show up to their office hours and talk to them. And instead of their grading me on the entirety of my paper, including the grammar, they actually graded me on my progress. So I did feel more welcome, and I feel like they were opening the floor for me to keep learning, and doesn't feel like, hey, I don't know, I'm gonna fail, because I feel a lot of international students, when they come to the United States, especially if their English is not that well, they might have that feeling, oh, I'm gonna be a disappointment for my family, I might need to quit, I might fail my classes. But if you have that supporting around you, I think it definitely helps you take to the next level. So.
I would add that I've never spent any holidays, whether it's Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, by myself. And that is what belonging looks like, except the one when I had COVID, so I had to isolate. But other than that, I've spent every holiday with someone. Someone has invited me. I haven't invited myself to their house, but they've invited me and made me a part of their family. So that's what belonging looks like.
For me, it was having the community at Bethune-Cookman. They just embraced me within the Caribbean community there. My mentor, Dr. Fingers, his wife and his family just took me in for Christmas, and that was one of the hardest. That was my first Christmas by myself when I came to college, and they took me in. They, no questions asked. Was like, hey, you can just come stay with us. And then it just felt like home, felt comfortable. Wasn't close to my family that year, so I guess made me feel like, hey, there's actually someone here that actually understands that this is hard for me, and they cared about it. Yeah.
The last but not least, I guess, would be when I really felt that I belonged and I was included. It was when Shay Wallace, who is on the floor today, right here, contacted me my senior year to listen my story on the phone for 3 hours, and he did not say, "Oh, why? Why?" He just listened, and that's when this work began. So I really felt then that I belonged, even with all the, extravagant experiences. That is the key point that started this whole idea, and that's the belonging part right there. When you feel heard, and you feel like you add instead of subtract.
Okay. Hi, Jessica Mullen from BYU. My question is, can you describe more of the ways that you guys, either as student athletes or as international staff and support and coaches, about the ways the athletic department honored you? I'm really interested to hear about the international student nights and ways that we can help raise visibility about your experiences and cultures and things like that.
Yeah. So I spoke about the. I spoke about the baseball night, so we can talk about that more if you would want. But truly, that was one of the biggest nights that we've had together, right, as international students. But also, I would say those career nights. Oh, now it's working, I guess. Those career nights that we have just for international student athletes, that makes a huge difference as well. And then, honestly, any of those, so I'm on the DEI Council for TCU, and one of the things that we do is every month we have a different cultural month. So we honor our student athletes and staff from different cultures or different countries every month. So whether that's on social media or just having them tell their story so we can put it out in the for our general public as well. So doing those small things make a difference. It doesn't always have to be that extravagant night, but also one of the big things I would say is affinity groups. Create an international affinity group if you can, where they can have that space to come together at least once a month, every 2 months, whatever, because we understand student athletes have a lot on their plate, so you don't want to add one more thing, but to give them that safe space to come together together and solve their issues together and get to know each other as well.
Again, like using, as administrators going to their senior day, going to the games, just having a flag day, just food night, something that will make them feel there. Celebrating at basketball games, you can do that. It's a different community I've never seen before. Soccer is a heavy one. Like soccer, we get a lot of traction at soccer. Our life program does a lot of more resource group and social group. So even if you have a SAC, your SAC group have a committee for their international students. Add a person from an international athlete to the SAC group so they can have a voice within SAC. And then try to push your international students to be more in leadership roles. They like the affinity groups, and I remember for me, I got involved within the SAC, then I became the MEAC SAC president. But for me, if my advisor didn't give me that opportunity to push me into that role, I would not have known anything about it. Because for me, we come here, play our sport, go to school. Those are the things that our parents always told us. If you want to play your sport, you have to go to class. So I wanted to play tennis, so I went to school. So for me, I didn't know anything about being a leader. I didn't know about that. I didn't have that career development from back home. So when I got here, my advisor gave me the opportunity to say, hey, here's an opportunity for you. You're the captain of the team. You can join SAC. This can get you involved, and that had opened the doors for me. So give that encouragement to be in those leadership roles where they can push themselves a little further.
One of the things I'll add to that baseball game that we did, we also had our director and assistant director of International Student Services come and throw the first pitch. So, and that was huge because you now build a relationship with them. We gave them a tour of the locker room. We kind of gave them behind the scenes of what happens at a game. And I'm telling you, that's how you make friends on campus. Like you give them a little bit of like, behind the scenes thing. But that first pitch, like, it's something that they said they would remember for the rest of their life. But also we are creating that bridge as well at the same time.
And just to add from my experience, something small, I was a swimmer, and for those of you who don't know, sound travel underwater. We had speakers in our pool, and during Carnival is around February, March in Brazil, and my coach would sometimes put some Brazilian music just for me to feel welcome home. So those small things can go a long way. I don't know if he understands the impact that he had just for those small changes, but I think things like that can really help. So
I will speak a little bit on the administrator side. So I'm a career counselor just 6 months in at the University of Pittsburgh, and I have already held 3 of the end of the month. There is a Panthers United dialogue. And so we invite to a small table, whoever wants to join, they bring, coffee and donuts. It's just the very last Friday of the month, and they open for the dialogue. And they invited me to share my experience. So I shared it with 10, that 10, shared with 20, and so forth and so forth. And out of nowhere of being the last one recruited at the, at the staff level, now I became the person that they can reach out to and just, have some travel tips and how that's worked.
Hi, everybody. Great panel. My name is Yannick Kluge. I'm with VCU and the University of Illinois. I'm a former international student from Germany. Everybody? I tracked down the only other German here and talked to them. So talking about, finding spaces. One of my questions is, some of the challenges in this work is that as soon as you tell people you are not from the US, you are the international student. So how do we do justice to the other identities that international students may hold? And Ansia, you talked about this a little bit when you talked about, the racial justice movement and what it's like to be black and international. Belonging looks very different for a queer international student compared to a straight international student, compared to a black queer international student. So part of the challenge in this discussion is, right, we kind of lump international students together as, one group. So how do we do justice to helping them maybe explore the other identities that they hold on campus as an international student?
Dr. Ash actually spoke on it. The affinity groups. I love what our student athlete development people do at our campus. We have like 7 affinity groups. Just have the resource. You don't have to force them to go, but as always, we all struggle with our identity at some point in time. We all decide, hey, this might not be who I am. I might want to be here, but at some point in time, give them the opportunity to have their resource groups. Like hey, you might be queer, but you can go here if you want to. Here's our black student athlete group. You can go here if you want to. It's the same mirroring for our staff. I know for sure at Louisville we have our Asian Pacific group. We have our black faculty and staff. It'll be the same thing if you were doing a FAME affinity group, so they can have that opportunity to decide where they feel comfortable in going for their identity.
I'll add, so in my office, as performative as it sounds, that safe zone sticker makes a huge difference, because then they know they have that one person to start having that conversation with. Or for me, it was my signature on my email had my pronouns, and then someone felt safe enough to say, if she can put that, maybe she is a safe person for me to talk to. Now, I can only be an ally for you because I don't identify as a part of the LGBTQ plus community, but I can be an incredible ally, or I can say, hey, these are your resources. I think you should talk to so-and-so. Doing that, I think, makes a difference. But on the other hand, I would say also creating that safe space for my other American students as well to ask those questions to other internationals so they can broaden their horizon as well. Let's not just focus on the international students, but also focus on those American students who want to broaden their horizon and make friends with other internationals. Yes.
Just to add that, I think the key is awareness. I think if the people in the department are aware of the different, communities around, they could help them better. Because sometimes it's not just the case that, sexual orientation, could be religion as well.
Yeah.
So I think, pointing them out, hey, there's a community here, if you're Jewish, if you're Muslim, if you, regardless of what you identify, I think if you are aware of the communities around you, you can point it out the best way for them to feel welcome. So.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
Am I here? Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you so much for just speaking your truth and sharing knowledge with us to be better allies to our international students. My name is Leisha. I am the AD at Villanova, the AD for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Villanova University. We do have an international student athlete ally and affinity group. And one thing I noticed is that there's a lot of cultural nuances that our international students don't know about. For an example, you mentioned Thanksgiving.
Right.
What I try to do is have monthly dinners around food, like cultural cuisine, where we can talk about what's necessary for the visa, or just to bring some campus partners in to talk about that whole process, since it's a knowledge gap for me, not being an international person. But one thing I did notice is that around Thanksgiving, when we were having our meal, that our international students didn't know about the genocide of Native Americans in this country, and that was shocking to me. And I realized that I was using language, from my own bias, that I consider Thanksgiving is things taken, and that's what we say in our family. And when I was saying that, our international students were like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
They had no idea about the history of Thanksgiving in this country.
Right.
And then I realized, there's some education that you need to know the truth about this country. And so I was wondering, if you can speak from your own lived experience, what are some of the cultural nuances that you wish you had education about, or you wish you had known, that might create some barriers in respect to your relationships with folks, or just how you're walking, or living in your journey in America? North America.
Okay, so I'll start. So when I started in athletics, I didn't know a single Indian person here, right, that was in athletics. Now I know at least 2 or 3, so that's good. We made some progress there, but honestly, I didn't know about the history of, I did obviously know the history of African American history in America, but didn't know the extent or as much as the nerd in me would like to know. So now I have that chance to do that. But also, like you said, the Indian American history as well, right? But I think where I got that is just going, like my school did these documentaries. We had a auditorium and they would run these documentaries, and so we would use that. So maybe doing that helps, but also speaking to people and having different people come and speak to your international students as well would make a difference.
Even just your for academic advisors or people who are working with like academics, the curriculum training. So I went to HBCU, I had to take African American history, and I was like, oh, this is very interesting. If you ever been to the African American Museum in DC, the bottom is where my culture stops. So for me, when I went there, I was like, oh wow, this is a lot more different than what they taught us, because they only taught us our culture, our history at that point in time where the slave trade started. So when I went to the African American Museum with the basketball team at FAMU, I was like, oh, this is fascinating. So even if you give your students that opportunity to go on trips, go on different groups and different places in your city, in your culture, because we all have some sort of monuments in our cities, you can just tell them, hey, here's where you can go learn these resources, here are people who can help you with this, but then also having that comfortability with the conversation, because ignorance is bliss, but if you don't know certain things, you have to have that open conversation with it.
I got two funny things for you.
Yes.
LOL, FMLAO, and so forth, and grocery stores.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you hold, please, a workshop of like what does LOL mean and what does other FIY things mean? Because my professor, you know, in ethics would be FYI, and I'm like, FYI. Sophomore year. And then grocery store, I cannot tell you how many times I got lost in Walmart and for like 3 hours trying to look for something, right? So maybe hold a little bus at the very end or before Thanksgiving and say, okay, let's go explore the grocery shopping and see how this works in the United States, because it's a lot different than the street back home in Bolivia.
Yeah, but I'll say that sometimes this just adds to the experience. So for me, I think that just learning this why I got here just added to my experience. So I think that was something cool. But I'd like to appreciate everybody that came here. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Those are some QR codes for our LinkedIn if you want to contact us with any further questions.